What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to look back at Halo 2. Coincidentally, we've had, the modders with the Halo 2 multiplayer and all that jazz. This is not actually the reason why I wanted to do this. So we looked back at Halo 1 a few months back. It did really good, and I thank you all for the support, and I thought, let's do the second game, which I don't know for sure. I have very fond memories of the third game. I know the third game tends to kind of be polarizing with people. 2 might be my favorite. Got to be honest. Now, I played it in the Master Chief Collection, right? So it gets kind of the full remake treatment. We're going to talk a little bit about, 2004 and when this thing first came out. And I played it, in that version. Let me just kind of throw that out there. But for this kind of history, for me looking back and playing it now, I did the, what was available to me, the easiest thing that was available, and I did the Master Chief Collection. And this game is great. This game really, I think it holds up well. It pushed the boundaries. It pushed some new things for Halo. And, again, you look back at the history and some of the stuff that I didn't even know. I mean, this game was under massive crunch. This game was actually in a whole lot of trouble, like, for a very long time. For either department, you want to take a look at single player? Okay, well, they had planned kind of an ending, and they scrapped it, and they said, hey, let's just go with the cliffhanger ending that you get of Halo 2. I think it works kind of well, and we're going to talk about that later, but it does feel like they could have done more, and, I mean, ultimately, they were planning on doing more. So you look at that. There was entire concepts that were kind of gotten rid of. There's the multiplayer side where, look, the multiplayer was really good, and it was a newer kind of thing for the time. Historians, in the gaming sphere have looked back, and this is really the game that pushed multiplayer, whether it's Xbox Live and the subscription, or, you just look at games that did it afterwards, Gears of War, and then eventually Call of Duty that became such a force, right? Halo 2 really set the groundwork for a lot of it, and they were kind of disappointed, in what it became. They had planned for a whole lot more. Again, it was just the crunch and the very strict schedule that they had. They had to get this thing out for the last holiday on Xbox. So November of 2004, they couldn't wait till the following year because that would have been the 360. And a lot of that stuff, again, I felt like I maybe knew, but I didn't know the full extent. I mean, this game was very troublesome, in order to actually make. They talk about the crunch of the last couple months. I mean, people were sleeping at, well, it's just not all that uncommon as you would see later on in the gaming industry, but the things that these people had to do specifically towards the end, that fall, to get this game out is kind of nuts. And like I said, the cut content and further ideas that they wanted to do. And you know what? What's ultimately kind of weird about it all is you read all that stuff and you say, man, this game must have been a disaster, right? Because they had planned for maybe like 50% more content that didn't make it. This game was like everything. This game sold, I mean, the first Halo did really well, and they weren't really expecting it, right? Hence why they never planned on doing more. So you make Halo 1, I believe it sold 5 million units in the first couple of years, so they said, okay, we're going to make it 2. 2 went on to sell, I think, 8.5 in its entire life. It became the highest grossing entertainment product of its time in terms of, gross money. So again, like, you think about how much of a struggle it was to make this game, and then you look at how successful, didn't really come through. I guess gamers ultimately didn't care all that much, right? The game sold really well. The game performed really well. I think this thing is sitting at a 95 on Metacritic. Most games nowadays don't sniff that area, right? They get to like a 91, 92, maybe 93, but not that 95 range. And the game really does back it up. So, I mean, from my own personal history, I remember playing this thing. I think I told the story with Halo. I feel like my dad just like gave it to me one day and said, hey, here's this game. We played split screen. My dad wasn't really a gamer, but he got me into Crash Bash, which really was like my first game I ever played. So that got me into Crash Bandicoot. We would play split screen for Halo and Halo 2 quite a bit. And that was kind of it. He kind of like drifted away after that, but he got me started, on my gaming journey. And when I think about my very earliest memories when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, Halo was a big part of it. Crash was first, but Halo was a really big part. And like I said, when I think back to Halo 2, I do think of it better than Halo 1. I think as a full product, okay? And this is back then. I would think Halo 2 was better. Halo 1 has kind of those classic maps and classic kind of locations that I do think outdo 2. Okay, so what about now? Well, I have much more knowledge, about Halo now. I've played the games, and I really think this game has held up quite nicely. I don't think perfectly. Now, of course, the remake, aspect of it and just how freaking good it looks, I think that helps, right? one thing that I was even reading on, right, was the creative team was thinking, well, what would it look like if we kind of gave the audience a look on the other side of this war, right? Like the whole pitch of this is, this war between, humans and this weird alien race of the Covenant, right? What would it be like to kind of flip it on on the other side? I really think that was a genius idea, and I think splitting it between Arbiter and Master Chief, that took some risk, that took some guts, and I really think it paid off because not only did it, I think, kind of infuse just this new and fresh kind of way of playing. Right now, technically they don't play all that much different, but you do have the camouflage for Arbiter versus a flashlight for Chief. But, Arbiter's got the sword, and I guess you can technically pick that up as Chief, but just kind of having that, and then I guess, the cutscenes and the lore kind of backing it up, truly to see the other side of things. I don't think I would have grasped that all that much as a 7-year-old or whatever, but now looking at it, especially, playing 1, and I just replayed 1 again like 3-4 months ago, you got the show going on right on Paramount, and oh boy, it's very up and down season 2. It's had some good moments, but it's also had some bad ones. Going back, it's like, honestly, this is how you do it. Like, you look at the show, which is also trying to do it, is you got Chief, you got the Spartans, you have the whole Reach fiasco, but then you have like Makee, and you have Arbiter, and you have that kind of side, but it's very much in its infancy, and they just don't do it as well. I saw that episode kind of while playing Halo 2, and it's like the game just does it better, right? Where it's like when you see the prophets, and you're like, this is really cool, this kind of religious cult thing that's going on. And, again, a lot of it is built in 1, but this is really where they open it up, and you get more of like the hierarchy, right? Where it's like these prophets at the top, and then kind of like their elite, and you have like what is an arbiter, like what makes an arbiter, and this individual or whatever you want to call him, right? His failure with Chief, and he's sent on this path, but then he realizes it, right? Like he realizes it's all a fake, and I feel like, he was just told that, right? Like in Halo 2, I thought that would be different. Or I thought it was different. I would have liked a little bit more to that than just kind of flat out saying, yeah, it's kind of all a lie. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of just not exposition dumps, but somewhat close to that, where it's like, you're going to now be kind of on the good guy team. Like, we got to kind of catch you up to speed, that they're not telling you all of the truth. But again, I think just looking past that just for a second, I think it is really cool. And I do think it's maybe the biggest strength, at least of the story, to see these two sides. And we'll talk about Chief in a second because I have a couple things to say. But just to see the other side of it and how that system is, like how, like, again, the hierarchy of it and what their side is doing and what their side believes and how they kind of fall in line. Now, on the Chiefs side, what I really, and I didn't remember this at all, and what I really respect now, as an adult playing it, I love getting into it and the relationship between Chief and Cortana. That's really what I'm getting at here. It's so good. It's so good. And, I think, too, I know 4 is also very polarizing, right? And I have a lot of things to say about 4, but I do want to replay it, and we'll do a video on 4, later on in this channel's history. I love their relationship in 4. Okay, I love it. I still actually sometimes watch cutscenes of just Chief and Cortana in 4. I think it's like perfect. 2, I really feel like is the birthplace, because 1 is the introduction, and Chief, I believe, definitely talks more in 2 than he does in 1. But just kind of immediately, like as soon as those two are together, they're making these quippy kind of remarks to each other, specifically Cortana, that is really fun. And really, like, it's got that compassion element, and it's not like she's hitting on him, but it's like, I don't know, she cares about him quite a bit, right? And they have this relationship where they're able to kind of go back and forth. Even in the beginning, right, when they're getting the medals, and she said, you look nice, and they both say thank you, like, right away. Like, that's like 5 minutes into the game, right? There's just a lot of those moments, not just in cutscenes, but also just in the minute-to-minute gameplay. Now, they don't talk too much when you're in the missions. It's a lot of the music, and sometimes it's silence, but it's also a lot of the music. But when they do have their little, quick remarks, basically, I think it really elevates. And I think that's, again, when I think of the story and I think of the risk involved in splitting it kind of in half, and they do a lot in terms of like eliminating threats, right? Like 2 prophets are gone by the end of this game. Only the one main one remains. You set up, okay, there's another Halo ring, which is it's a little similar to the first game, but you get a little bit more background. you have, again, two kind of different sides kind of getting to the same place at once, or they want to. So you get to this Halo ring, and then, the end happens, and it's like, okay, well, everything's kind of on standby, but there's kind of, the button that you're going to have to press, and it's a race to the finish, right? You got one kind of bad guy left, and I like it, reading up on it. They talked about how because they couldn't really do things, they wanted to have Arbiter and Chief meet up on Earth, right, for kind of like one final stand, and that had to be cut. And they said, okay, well, they looked at the ending because it was more of a cliffhanger. They looked at it as like an Empire Strikes Back. And to be flat out honest, now I read that today. I read that 20 minutes ago, okay? I didn't know that. Playing the game, I thought the exact same thing. This feels like a middle episode. It's darker. It's a little bit more about loss than like wins, right? I mean, again, like they make some progress in their winning department, but they're kind of playing from behind. You're playing as like the villain, for part of the game until he kind of comes around. And so it definitely has that feel without even being told that it's supposed to feel like Empire Strikes Back. It kind of does. And then you look at the ending of it and it's like, yeah, Cortana is separate. You get the classic line of like, don't make a girl a promise you can't keep. That is legendary, and that will come back, to haunt many of us as the games go. But you get that line here. You get Chief and Cortana being separated. You have Cortana in a very like not great situation at the end. You have Chief saying, hey, we're going to finish this fight. You have Arbiter that's fully, kind of coming to his own and siding more with the humans. And like it's got a feel of disjointedness, but in a good way. In a good way. Everybody's kind of scattered. There is a plan, but like, there's ways that this could go wrong. You're kind of playing from behind, right? The enemy kind of has a few steps ahead of you, at least on their location. And there's civil war going on, in the Covenant once the first prophet dies. It's like there's just a lot of kind of darkness and disjointedness going on. I love it. I mean, I love the feel, I don't even know if you want to call it atmosphere. I think atmosphere might be the right way. Just the atmosphere of the story is really, really good. And miles, let me say this, miles better than 1. Now, again, I remember 3 quite fondly, but I know not everybody feels that, so we'll have to see when we get to 3. 2 is often regarded as the best Halo. I might have the best Metacritic score. I don't know that for sure. Not that it matters, but just to kind of throw the stats, the kind of history out there. But I really like it. So in terms of the story, I mean, I think I've said everything kind of I want to say. In terms of the gameplay, well, they elevated that too. Now, again, hard to say, like I don't want to lean too hard on like the visuals and the spectacle of that, because I mean I can remember playing it originally, and I did, before I recorded this video a while ago, I looked online of like, okay, what did the cutscenes of Halo 2 and what did some of the stuff look like in Halo 2 originally versus what I played now, right? I can try to remember back, well, literally 20 years ago. It's the 20th year anniversary. That's nuts, right? I can think about it, but I can't like really play it in my head. I think it looked good back then. I think it looks good right now. So some of the stuff that really stood out to me in combat, and now this is in the first game, right? I want to kind of focus on this for a second. I respect this game, although it's not really my style. Let me say that. The way that the missions are kind of very open, and they're not, I don't even want to really say they're linear, because they kind of continue to open up. Like you're fed into this area, you have like a situation going, and then it kind of opens up beyond that, right? And you can take a vehicle, you can take different weapons, you can kind of handle it your own way. Now, that is in Halo. This is not like a new concept, right? That was in Halo 1. This one does it more. It's bigger, and I would say it's better. I would say it's better because now you have some flying sections. You got, I don't know, it's never on rails really, right? But I feel like you have different like opportunities or different things or different ways of handling a certain situation. Now, I said, a few seconds ago, not really my style, and this is why I probably will spend less time talking on this, and it's not really fair. And again, you just have to realize like it comes from me. It's not really my style of game, like, and I'm not saying like I like to have my hand held, okay? I do at times. But when I think back to like the 2006 to this was 2004, but kind of my earlier phase of gaming, I was perfectly fine with these very linear levels of just, hey, you go through and you handle the situation, you go from one place to the end. I'm just not used to as many games like Halo. Like I normally stayed away generally. Even, and I've played Gears of War 1 now and Gears of War 2 for the first time. And they're not, I mean, they're also kind of like Halo, but Halo, I think, is it's bigger. Halo is a bigger kind of field you're left to play in, and again, how it opens up. Gears is, I think, a bit more linear, and I respect that, about Gears. So just to kind of throw it out there, I respect it. I think they did it really well, and I can see it, and I think the improvements from 1 to 2 are massive. Just not really, I feel like it's almost too open for me, where it's like, well, what if I get lost? I'm thinking that in my own head, where it's like, oh man, I gotta try to follow some sort of path, because if I go a wrong way, I'm gonna end up getting myself like turned around, or I might miss a small little area to go in, and then I feel like I have to do something. Like, well, do I have to get in this ship? Do I have to get in this vehicle, or can I not do it? And sometimes it's highly recommended that you get in that Warthog, right? Sometimes it's not. So that kind of stuff, and I'm not going to put that on the game. That's just my style, right? I can respect it. And that's more of like the traversal, I'd say, or like maybe mission design. In terms of the gameplay itself, the game feels good. Now, I just played Halo 1, a few months back, but I think even in between playing Halo 1, I went back to play Infinite in the multiplayer. That kind of screwed me up, because I'm trying to feel like how almost sluggish or like heavy that it feels. I liked the movement. I think the movement with the aiming and shooting, like, I think it felt good. It felt very modern to me. Now, I don't know if the Master Chief Collection did things to enhance that modern feel of the gunplay versus the original Halo 2, but it felt really good to me. So that part, I have nothing but praise to say about it. Dual wielding, great addition, just great in general. All of the weapons, all of the, the enemy types, keeping things fresh, and having Chief and then having Arbiter and kind of going back and forth also keeps things fresh, because you're kind of fighting different enemies. And again, like the weapons, like you can repeat, but Arbiter tends to have the weapons that he uses. Chief tends to have the weapons and weapons that drop too, right? So I think by having that balance, you balance the game a little bit too in terms of the gunplay. So all that, I would say, is excellent. The multiplayer, which is easily the thing to spend the least amount of time in. So I got my butt whooped over and over. I mean, like, I have probably no multiplayer matches to actually show you guys in terms of footage, because I don't want to show you a pathetic, kind of match. I can't remember, like, the maps themselves, right? If there's anything that I can say, I said about Halo 1, a lot of the single-player map, which I guess then kind of transfer to multiplayer, like, I think to them. The maps are very iconic. I would say in 2... I think it's a better paced story. I think the tone and atmosphere, and I like the dual wielding, and I think it feels better than Halo 1. There's a lot of 2 that's better than 1, in my opinion. But the maps are maybe not one of them. Like, I can think of 1 or 2 maps off the top of my head. And when I played, so I did play the multiplayer. It's just I'm probably not going to show it to you. When playing it, it's like, yeah, I recognize that one. And there's some okay ones in terms of the design. They feel, well, some of them feel a bit more open. Some of them actually don't, though. I can think of 2 maps that are kind of iconic in my head that I remember playing that with my dad or my sister or my friends. I remember, like, just if there's 3 of us playing, because I don't even think we did multiplayer maybe back then, but just like the split screen kind of idea, I can absolutely remember it. That's really all I have to say about that. Again, we talked in the beginning, the multiplayer, in terms of the history and the impact that this game had, is enormous. You know what I mean? It's not really fair to go based just off what I'm saying about my experience. I think the multiplayer holds up. I think it's great. And I think the historical impact of how big and how just important that multiplayer was back in 2004 is enormous. It's just, I think the people that still play it now in the Master Chief Collection, I think they're gods. I think they're insanely good, and I stand absolutely no chance. I don't know. Like, I would get destroyed. I feel like, I don't know, like, can you use cheating software in it? I don't know, but it really felt like people were using cheating software, because I would, like, step out from a corner and get sniped, and I would laugh. I was laughing. My wife was next to me and saying, why do you keep laughing? Because I'm getting sniped in the freaking skull every time I step out. These people, like, know my every move, even though there's nobody near me. I'll just step out, and suddenly a freaking laser beam or a sniper shot from across the map will hit me in the head. It's like, how did they even see me? I think it's just people that are diehards and have been playing maybe since Master Chief Collection came out. So a legendary game, truly a legendary game, a game that I think is far better than Halo 1 from whether it's the story or just how it feels, dual wielding gameplay. I think this is a phenomenal game. And although, again, like the mission design is never really going to be for me, I can respect it. I think they did a phenomenal job back in 2004. And I still think, like, you know, again, part of the purpose of sometimes doing these videos, right? I'm playing the game now. Like, not that it's super important if the game still holds up literally to today. You're not going to fool anybody into thinking Halo 2 came out yesterday. But this is a really good game that I think you can still play right now and take something, whether it's the way the story is told or whatever, I think you can take something away from it. I think that's really special. So we're eventually, you know, if you're wondering, and we've been doing this for Gears of War, I'm doing it slow, but I do want to nail all of the Halo games, all of the Gears of War games over time. So like I said, we've done Gears of War 1 and 2, we've done Halo 1, now here's Halo 2. We'll see where it goes. And I got PlayStation franchises we'll be doing as well. We're going to keep things very balanced here. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.